In this video, I'm going to share with you the secret sauce to off-grid survival, and that's having the right items in your kit. In just a minute, I'm going to share with you those 3 criteria that you need to have in your mindset so that you're picking the right items for your kit and ditching the wrong items. Most preppers, they don't have this mindset. They think that more is better, and they end up with too many items or the wrong items, and their preps don't work out for them. They actually fail them in that critical moment. You're not going to be one of those preppers, because you're going to have watched this video and you're going to want to know those 41 items that you need in your kit, as well as how to think with those 3 criteria so that you can pick the right things for your context. All of that is coming up. All right, guys, so when it comes to that off-grid survival, you're going to want to have these right items in your kit, and we're talking about 41 items today that you need to have. Before we dive into those right here in just a second, I want to talk about those 3 criteria you need to have in place, and those things are this. You need to be thinking through the weight of the items that you're picking. Having the right items but them weighing too much is going to be a bad move. Also, necessity. Do you have the things you absolutely need? If you have too many items, you're going to be weighed down. You're going to be focused on your preps, not focused on the situation at hand. Finally, durability. You need to have the right items that are going to actually last for the situation, the right clothing to blend in, the right kind of items that are going to actually hold up when you need them most. So be thinking through those 3 main items of weight, necessity, and durability as we go through this list of 41 preps so that you are one of those people that is ready in that situation. Let's talk about what we see in the Reddit threads on this topic. So we love to, on our channel, dive into the Reddit threads and look at what's rising to the top in that wisdom from the preppers who have gone before us, those around us. Let's see what they are saying. They're saying, first and foremost, fire-making tools. It gets the most mentions of anything else on the thread, so it's pretty critical that we have fire-making tools. That makes sense for an off-grid situation. After that, water purification, I would highly agree with that. We'll talk about what that looks like here in a second. You're not going to miss out on these 3 items you need to have for water purification. We'll get to that in a second. And then finally, I would just note that navigation is pretty low on this list. I think it should be a little bit higher. Not a lot of mentions on how recommended and important it is. A navigation tool for the right situation, maps for your context, a compass, pretty key. I'm going to share with you one more item that you're going to want to have in your kit coming up here in just a second. But let's look at one more outcome of the Reddit threads. And that's this. You want to be thinking through utility versus weight. And so when I talk to you about those 3 main items to look at of weight, necessity, and durability, when it comes to thinking about what kind of gear to pick, you want it to have high utility. It needs to be really useful if it's going to make it into your pack. But it also needs to weigh very little. If it weighs too much, even if it's highly useful, it may not be worth the weight. So we see here on this, there's going to be some various miscellaneous items that are going to weigh a lot and be low utility. You're going to want to avoid those. And then there's also going to be some personal protection items. You're going to want to be careful in picking out things that don't weigh too much and still have utility. And then towards the lower end of this graph, you see navigation, fire-making tools, water purification. Those are all no-brainers you're going to want to make sure to have. So let's talk about the different categories you've got to have in your kit. Those are water purification and storage. You need to have food and cooking supplies, shelter and warmth, first aid kit, tools and equipment, lighting and power. We're of course going to have communication devices, personal protection, clothing and footwear, and finally miscellaneous items. So we're going to break down each one of these categories one by one so that you can have a kit that is right for your situation and you're ready for an off-grid situation that might come to you. Okay, let's start with water purification and storage and talk about those 3 items I mentioned. And I told you that you might be surprised by one of them. Let's talk about what those are. Purification tablets. This is the one that I think people don't think about. They might think about a water filter so that they can find some way to drink from a stream or from a situation around them. You're going to want to have purification tablets. They are more universal, but if you need to boil water, a water purification tablet is going to be essential, and not just drink the water. Having something that you could actually cook in. Boiling, of course, it's going to kill all the germs itself, but you want to be absolutely certain. That's why I would make sure to have those purification tablets in there. And then if you're going to cook in any other way, way where you don't boil the water, where you don't have time to boil the water, purification tablets become really helpful as an addition to your kit. Plus, they meet the criteria. They're really lightweight, very necessary, and those bottles are going to be pretty durable. Finally, a water bottle of some sort of way to carry around water with you is pretty key, pretty critical. And in this, you're going to want to think about selecting the kind of water storage that gets you through that off-grid situation until you get to a long-term bug-out location. So all of the preps you're going to find in this pack are not necessarily the items you might keep for long term. That's not the point. The point here is we're getting an off-grid kit that can get you through that first stage and into something more permanent. All right, moving on to food and cooking supplies. After water, of course, you're going to want to think about food. Non-perishable food tops the list. And you're going to think here both about non-perishable items that you could eat without cooking them. So if you had to, that would be canned food or nuts, things that are prepackaged. But you're also going to want to think about non-perishable food that will last a long time that you could cook. Now we're talking pasta, rice, beans. With that, you're going to want to have a portable stove. The one you see here is on the larger side. You might want to pick something a little bit smaller than that for a super portable situation, if that's your context. And then finally, utensils and cookware are going to be important. So you don't just have these items to cook, but know a way to actually cook them in a helpful way. And then utensils that have multi-purpose is also going to be a helpful item. All right, after that, you need somewhere to stay, shelter and warmth, and you're going to think through primarily the two main things are staying dry and staying warm. A hammock and a tent are going to be helpful in different ways. A hammock may be helpful to elevate your food above the ground so that it's not going bad. But of course, you're going to need a tent to be able to stay dry and stay warm. Sleeping bags that's rated thermally is going to be really helpful for all different situations. This would be a place that you might spend a little extra money to make sure that you've got the right sleeping bag. And then thermal blankets as well for a situation. You have no idea in what context you're going to have to be off grid, so make sure that you're prepared for any kind of weather situation. First aid kit, there's a lot of different items you might include, but I want to hit on the main ones. Sterile gauze pads, adhesive bandages, antiseptic wipes. All of these are going to be helpful for cuts, antibiotic ointment as well, and then pain relievers. You don't want to be distracted by pain, and if at all possible, you want to handle that. Ibuprofen and acetaminophen are really helpful for that. Medical tape and scissors. And here the goal is with this kit that you see on the screen, it's got a few other extra items that we'll go over in other sections as well. But whatever kit that you pick, you want to be thinking through what will get you through that emergent situation into something that is more established and safe, and where you can get some better help for a longer term situation. This is to tide you over, should be how you should be thinking about your first aid kit. Tools and equipment. There's some different categories here. You're going to want that multi-tool, of course. A multi-tool is a no-brainer because it does meet that weight criteria as well as durability, and it's highly necessary. It can function in multiple different circumstances, whether you're in an urban situation or if you end up in a more rural situation. It's helpful. A knife, a hatchet, a saw, something that you can cut up boards or items around you so that you can be flexible to meet the need of the situation. That's going to be helpful. A compass and a map. Make sure that you have those. Make sure that you practice with those, because a lot of the times people will include a compass and a map, but have no idea how to use it until the situation is at hand. Make sure that you are prepared with experience with the compass and the map. Finally, a fishing kit is super helpful because you never know what kind of situation you might be in, and having a fishing kit could be really helpful in case you might need it, need to be able to find a way to get food, and your option is to fish. Lighting and power. All right, in this case, we're going to think about the flashlight, a pretty obvious item. Most people think of that first. Make sure that yours is a tactical flashlight, so it also serves in that purpose of self-defense. Headlamp is going to be helpful because it's going to help you be hands-free. And again, you're thinking not just about weight, but also necessity and durability. This is going to be a lightweight item that gives you hands-free. It increases your ability to engage with whatever survival situation. It's also a no-brainer. Extra batteries, don't forget those so that you can last longer in this survival situation. And finally, a power bank, and ideally one that could be charged through sunlight is going to be really helpful so that you've got multiple options for how to stay powered up with these items that you've got, like your flashlight and your headlamp. All right, so from there, let's talk communication devices. There's some different ways that people approach this. Again, am going to approach this with a lightweight option. I don't want to lug around a satellite phone. I'm going to focus on the walkie-talkie end of the spectrum, lightweight, and the ability to communicate easily across distances, different channels. I think it gets the job done. All right, finally, let's move to personal protection, and then one more after this. But for personal protection, this is going to be more of a personal preference. You may not like what I have on mine, which is pepper spray or taser. You may choose something more heavy duty. You may want a firearm. This is my preference. I'd love to hear in the comments below why you would choose what you would choose for your situation. Again, it's going to be different for different contexts. Tell us why, and tell us how it fits in with those criteria that we have of weight, necessity, and durability. Would love to hear from you. And then also I've got on the list here a whistle. I think a whistle can be really helpful because it is the first category, especially pepper spray or taser, are going to be quiet. That would be my preference, why I like them, unobtrusive. But there may be moments where you want to be loud, and that's where a whistle can be really helpful for sounding an alarm or scaring somebody who might be coming at you. All right, clothing and footwear. Here, one of our main criteria we're going to look for is durability. You want clothing and footwear that's going to last, but also you want clothing and footwear that's going to keep you unobtrusive and blending in. So you're going to pick items that tend to be more neutrally colored, but also have that durability to them. So we've got these work pants here, also work boots, maybe steel-toed boots are great. And then you want to be prepared for all different kinds of weather scenarios or situations. That's where rain gear can be helpful, from a poncho. I have an umbrella on here, which might be helpful. I think a poncho is probably more helpful for you, for those in your family. And then gloves and winter gear. You need to be prepared for any kind of weather situation that might come up. So make sure that that's a factor when you think in terms of this category. All right, finally, miscellaneous items. This is the kind of the catch-all. I think a duct tape should be topping that list. Duct tape has so many applications. A lot of us know this, but whether it's a makeshift shelter that you're holding together, or you're repairing clothing, or if it came down to it, you could even close a wound if you had to. But duct tape has a lot of situational applications. You're going to want some duct tape in your pack. Of course, a sewing kit could also function both for clothing, or if you had a wound you needed to close. That's going to be super helpful to, again, tide you over until you get to a more permanent location. And finally, some sort of way to start fire, whether that's a ferro rod or a lighter or waterproof matches. You need some way, and honestly, maybe multiple ways. Again, these are lightweight, so getting a few different options in your pack is probably going to be super helpful. All right, guys, so that begins to close us out. Here's my last thought for you, and this is what I want to leave you with. Don't skip over this part. As you begin to think about your context in your off-grid situation, you need to learn how to think in such a way that you can tackle your particular situation. So what does your family need? What do you need personally, both in terms of health or in terms of mobility or in terms of the specific situations that are high probability for your area? If you live in an urban center that's a high target for a terrorist attack, how does that change the preps that you need to have in your kit? Make sure that you're thinking through that those factors as well. And so that's why I tell you these are the 41 items in the kit, but you need to have that prepper mindset so that you can approach that situation with thinking through strategy. How is this going to look like in your situation? How do you need to adjust your pack? What do you need to include or maybe even remove so that your kit is the best fit for your situation? So keep developing that mindset, and we will see you on the next video.